Good morning, swans and falcons, and here's today's learning intention. In maths today, we will be learning to solve simple one-step equations. So building upon the knowledge of the equations we've used over the last few days and seeing if we can solve them. Right, our first activity is just a bit of a reminder of what we've been doing. So if you look here, I've got 3-part whole models. I want you to think about what equation you could write for each of these. Remember, you can choose any letter you like to represent, well, I've used Lego. And here, these are definitely worth 1 each because they're penny coins. So we know the value of those is 1. Have a go and see if you can write the equation. Pause the video and restart it when you're ready to have a look at the equations. Well, you could have chosen any letter you wanted, but because my Lego bricks were yellow and green, I've chosen to use Y and G. So here I have 3 yellow bricks, so I've gone 3Y plus 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We know the value of those 5 pennies equals 26 because this was what was in my hole at the top. Over here, I've got 1 yellow brick, so I've just put Y. I haven't put 1Y, I've just put Y plus 3 equals 10. And here I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 of the green bricks, which is, we could put G plus G plus G plus G equals 40. But as we remember, we can put the number next to the G and just have 4G equals 40. So I hope you got those or had something similar. You may have chosen different letters and that's not a problem. It was about the equation and having 3 plus 5 here, 1 of the whatever letter you chose plus 3 here, and recognising that we had 4 here of whatever letter you chose. So now I've got 2 bar models. And I would like you to think about the equation that would go for each of these models. Have a go at writing out the equation, pause the video while you do so, and put it back on when you're ready to go through the answers. So hopefully you thought here that whatever we've got is equal to 18. And we have 3 lots of A, so 3 equal amounts. So 3A equals 18. On this one, again, we've got 18 as our whole, but we know that we've got 10 as a regular thing. We know that that's a value. So 2m's plus 10, 2m plus 10 equals 18. And hopefully you came up with something similar. Well, hopefully you did okay with those recap questions. Now we're going to have a look at today's learning. So I have Mr. A and Mr. B. Mr. A is very honest and tells everything he's got. So he says, I've got 6 chocolate bars. Mr. B, a bit more cagey, we can see he's got 2 chocolate bars, but he also has got some in his bag. What we do know is that what Mr. A and Mr. B have got balances. So if we're told that Mr. A and Mr. B have the same amount of sweets, how many does Mr. B have in his pocket? Let's represent this. If we know that they have the same, we can put it on a balance scale. So we know that Mr. A's 6 bars will balance with Mr. B's bars plus what we know is in his pocket. And I'm going to represent that by the letter P for things in the pocket. So we now know that P plus the 2 is the same as this. It's balanced. So if I were to take 1 sweet from Mr. A's side of the balance scale, what do you think would happen? Yes, it would now be a scale that's unbalanced because this side would be heavier. So we'd have the 5 on this side because we've just taken one away, but we would still have 2 and the p on this side. How could we balance the scale? Well, yes, we either, 5 on there. We either put one back to make it 6 and the 2 plus the p on this side, or we also take one from this side. So if I were to take one from here and one from here, my balance scale would still balance, because whatever I've done to one side, I've done to the other. That's the idea of balancing our equations. So I can see that if I take one more from Mr. A and also one more from Mr. B, I'm left with 4 on this side, balancing with whatever is in Mr. B's pocket. So now I can see that P, as in the number in his pocket, is equal to 4. Now, I'm sure you could probably see that very early at the start, but this process of remembering we need to make things balance, and that's what this equal sign is, the balancing of either side, that will help us with today's work. Let's show with a bar model what we've just worked out with our balance scale. We had Mr. A with his 6 bars of chocolate, and we've got Mr. B with his 2 bars and what was in his pocket. So we know that 2 plus P equals 6. Because we know that what Mr. A and Mr. B have is equal. So as we talked about before, we need to keep the equation balanced. So whatever we do to one side, we have to do to the other. So if we treat this equal sign like the centre of our balance scale, if I take 2 away from this side so that I can find just the P, I've also got to take 2 away from this side. So 6 take away 2 means that P will be equal to 4 to keep things balanced. And you can see this here, we've now got P, but that must be equivalent to the 4 that are left on Mr. A's side. Okay, so can you now work out the value of one of my Lego blocks if Lego block plus Lego block plus Lego block equals 20? Pause the video and have a go. So we can show this as a part whole model, but we can use a letter instead of the Lego bricks. So I could start with a 20 in my whole, and I could start with maybe a Y, because they're yellow, that I've got 4 that show. So 4Y is equal to 20. So I can say 4Y equals 20. I can always show this as a bar model as well. So I can have my bar, which shows 1, 2, 3, 4. And I can have my bar that shows I know what the whole is. So the whole is worth 20. And my 4 here are my 4 Y's. So Y, 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 and Y. And we know that these Y's are the same size, which is why I've used the same letter for each of the sections. So again, 4Y is equal to 20. So if we know that 4Y is equal to 20, and we know that a 4 and a Y next to each other is like 4 times Y, we need to divide both sides to be able to find out what the answer should be. Because if we divide 4y by 4, we'll get y. And we divide 20 by 4 and we'll get 5. So y is equal to 5. So I've got two more bar models here. I've got x plus 4 being equal to 13 and 2 and x and 7 being equal to 12. Pause the video and see if you can balance the equation by doing the same thing to both sides to find the value of x in both of these bar models. Okay, now you've had a go. Hopefully you saw that you know that x plus 4 is equal to 13. And if we know that, and remember that what we've got to do to get rid of the 4 and leave just the x on one side is do the same to both sides. So to find x, I've got to take 4 from this side and 4 from this side. So x plus 4, take the 4 away, will give us x equals, and then 13 take away 4 will give us 9. So in this occasion, x equals 9. On this one, we've actually got 2 plus x plus 7 equals 12. So we could take 2 away and then take 7 away from both sides. But I also know that 2 plus 7 is 9, so I can take 9 away. So x take away 9 equals 3. I've got another equation here and I'm going to draw the bar model for it. So if I draw a bar model like this, of course I've got 14 here, and then of course I've got p and 4 making up the rest of the bar. So looking at this, that must mean that p is equal to 10. Pause the video. Can you spot the error I've made? I think we might need to redraw our bar model. Have a go and see if you can work out the correct answer. Restart the video to have a look and see if you're correct. I can see now that we've made an error, because if we think our 14 is actually p take away 4 leaves us with 14. So actually p is our whole, and this 4 needs to add to the 14 to make, so that's 14. Not drawn my bar very well, and that's 4. So actually p is equal to 14 plus 4. Let's see if it works with our idea of balancing the equation. So remember, to get just p on this side, we need to get rid of this. Now, if I've got p take away 4, I will need to add 4 to get rid of that negative. And I will need to do the same to this side to make it continue to balance. So that'll be 14 plus 4. So just like we've got here, our whole is p, and p is made up of 14 plus 4. So we've got p equals 18. So the last two equations we're looking at adding and subtracting. These two are looking at something else. Can you see how we would work out the value of d and e in these equations? Pause the video, have a think for yourself, and then turn back on to see me work them through. Well, using a bar model may help us here. So let's think about this one. So d over 6 is 4. My bar's not a bit wobbly, but it's like saying that if I had 6 sections, 3, 4, 5, 6, they would each be worth 4. Because something divided into 6 sections has given an answer for one of them as 4. So then we can think about this being D. D is therefore worth all of these. So 6 lots of 4 will give us the answer to D. So 6 times 4 is 24. So D equals 24. The same thing has happened here as was happening in our previous equations. We have to do the same to both sides. And if you can see here, this is a division calculation. So we need to multiply both sides by 6 to get rid of the division. So the opposite of multiplication is division and vice versa. So if we multiply by 6 on both sides, we'll get D here and we'll get 24 here, because 6 times 4 is 24. Now this one, as you can see, is a multiplied. It's already been multiplied. We've got 7 lots of E equals 28. So this time we know that our top bar is worth 28. But we know we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sections of E, because that is 7E equals 28. So we need just one section. So like here we had 7 sections. We're going to divide by 7 to find one section. So if we divide this by 7 as well, we will find that E equals 4. And that's the same as 28 divided by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Just 2 more to think of again like this, just to remind ourselves that this line means division. So what we're saying here is that F divided by 5 equals 5. And remember, whatever we do to get rid of this here, we've got to do to the other side. So if it's division, we've got to do the opposite. So we've got to multiply by 5. That will give us 5. So if we multiply by 5, we get rid of this. But then we have to multiply by 5 the other side, and we will get 25. Here we've got 8H. We want to find 1H. What do we do to get rid of that 8? Because that 8 means 8 lots of H. So it's a multiplication. So we need to do the opposite. We need to divide both sides by 8. So division by 8 that side. And then we have to do 32 divided by 8. And if I know my 8 times table, 8s into 32 go 4 times. 4 8s are 32. So there we have F equals 25 and H equals 4. So here's my final challenge this morning. So you've got the perimeter of this 5-sided shape. Not very neatly drawn, I admit, but it is a 5-sided shape. So it is a pentagon, but not a regular pentagon. It's got a perimeter of 400 centimetres. But it is expressed in Y. Can you form an equation to show the information you've got here? Once you've done that, can you use your equation to solve the equation to find the value of Y? And then using the value of Y, can you work out the lengths of all the different sides of this pentagon? Pause the video, have a go for yourself, and then I'll work it through with you. Okay, so we've got 3y plus 4y plus 3y plus 4y plus 6y equals 400 centimetres. So 3 plus 4 is 7, plus 3 is 10, plus 4 is 14, plus 6 is 20. So we know that 20y equals 400 centimetres. If we know that 20y equals 400 centimetres, we need to divide, because remember this 20y means 20 times y. So to get rid of the 20 on this side, we need to divide 20y by 20, and we need to do the same to the other side so that our equation still balances. So we can take the 20 off of this side, we need to divide this by 20. Okay, so if I cover this up for a minute, how many 20s go into 40? Yes, it's 2. And then, of course, it's not 40, it's actually 400, so it's 10 times bigger. So instead of 2, it's 20. So y equals 20 centimetres. Now, using this information, we can find out the length of each of these sides. So 3 lots of y, 3 lots of 20 will be 60 centimetres. 4 lots of y will be 80 centimetres. 3 lots we know is 60 centimetres. 4 lots is 80 centimetres. And 6 lots of y, 6 times 2 is 120 centimetres. I hope you worked that out. Now you're ready to do today's worksheet. Remember to let us know on the blog if you find anything tricky.